Whenever you get that sense that a woman might be pulling away, you're almost always right. Now, that doesn't mean it's over, but it does mean you are at a critical juncture. How you handle it and how you respond is pretty much going to decide whether or not you and her have a future. In these situations, there are just two types of guys. There are the guys who get the outcome that they want, and there are the guys who get the outcome that happens to them. You need to take control of yourself and the situation to get the outcome that you want. That means understanding why she pulled away, how you should handle it, and what mistakes to avoid. Hey, what's up? I am Rob, and in today's video, we are going to cover why women pull away and how you should handle it. I want to begin by pointing out that in all my interactions with all the women that I've dated, or even just hooked up with over the years, as well as all the interactions I've seen working with clients, women always pull back a bit at some point. There's always this moment where a woman's going to pull back. Now, the degree and the extent of that pullback obviously is going to vary, but there will always be some sort of pullback. And by the end of this video, I promise it's going to make sense why women do that. I promise. Sometimes women pull back and it's very subtle and minor, right? So much so that you might not even notice that she's doing it. But very often it is noticeable. And very often it throws guys off. And it sends them looking for information, which is probably why you ended up watching a video like this. And look, I know, I have been there, where things start off great, you have a great time hanging out together, and keeping the vibe going over text, it just seems so easy. She's flirting with you, and a lot of that has to do with it's because she's making time for you, that she's making herself available. And now this is an important point, right? Because at this point, if you're like most guys, this is where your thoughts, they might start to wander, right? I know for myself, if I had a friend's wedding coming up or I had some fancy event where I could bring a +1, this is where I would start daydreaming about what it might be like to take her. I would start to imagine myself showing up with this new beautiful woman hanging off my arm, right? And guess what? She's probably having those same exact thoughts about you. Now, that might come as a bit of a surprise, but it really shouldn't. I mean, think about it. You're not crazy. It's not like you hallucinated this elaborate fantasy in your head. No, the fun that you had, the good times, it was all real. And what's happening is that you're moving into the next stage of intimacy. And that's why she's testing you. That's why she's pulling back. And that's why you're at where you are right now. You need to look at it like this is a crossroads. So these next 5 mistakes are going to explain how to navigate that crossroads. Mistake number 1, not knowing what comes next. Until now, everything you and her felt for each other was fueled by attraction. But do you know what comes after attraction? What's more intense than attraction? If you don't, listen up. Because attraction, it's just the first stage of intimacy. The second stage is desire. The third is infatuation, and the fourth stage is love. Each stage has its own set of challenges and opportunities, or you can think of each stage as having its own unique rules, its own expectations. Also, every stage except love has a time limit. It has sort of an expiration date. So every time you enter a new phase, the clock's ticking towards a countdown. And that's because no relationship is static. People don't stay together for years and years because of attraction alone. No. Attraction is just the opening act. So, until you and a woman are in love, understand that transitioning from one stage to the next, it can be a bit of a roller coaster. But things get a lot easier when you know the stages and you know how to approach them. And you probably already understand some of this on some level. I mean, most guys know the difference between liking someone and loving someone. But the those two middle stages, the desire and infatuation, that's what trips a lot of guys up. And transitioning from a guy that she finds attractive to a guy that she desires is probably actually the most challenging stage. That's the most challenging transition you're going to go through. To get it right, you need to know why attraction is different than desire. And even more important, you need to learn how to transform attraction into desire. See, most guys assume incorrectly that desire is a privilege. It's something that just happens. But getting a woman to desire you, it's actually a skill. It's a learnable set of behaviors. So let's pull up that 4 stages of intimacy again. So there's attraction, which is the I like him stage. Then comes desire, which is I want him. Then infatuation, I need him. And then finally you arrive at love. I love him. As I mentioned, it's a progression. So each stage builds on the one before it. It all starts with attraction, which is based on chemistry, whether that chemistry is physical or it's emotional. A lot of the times it's a little bit of both. Next up is the stage that we're interested in, which is desire. And this is a combination of attraction and value. In essence, desire is attraction that you're willing to pay a price for. It's attraction with a price tag on it. When you desire something, you don't just like it, you want it. And you're willing to do something to get it. This idea that desire is attraction with a price tag is critical because it gives you a concrete objective. It gives you a goal. And it gives you a goal when you need it the most, right? When you're at that crossroads between attraction and desire. So the stage after the desire, infatuation, happens when you combine desire with mystery and novelty. And then after that, when you finally fall in love, it's because you've added compatibility, trust, and commitment to that infatuation. So as you can probably see, our feelings deepen and intensify as we move through each of these stages because we're adding more and more complexity. But let's bring it back to that crossroads, back to when a woman pulls away. Like I said earlier, at some point, a woman always pulls back. It's very important that you treat this as a test, which isn't a bad thing. It's actually an opportunity. So rather than sitting there and bitching and moaning and saying things like, why is she doing this to me? You need to reframe it. She's not doing it to you. She's doing this for you. She's giving you a chance to take things to the next level with her. It's important to adopt that victor mindset rather than a victim mentality. And now look, am I saying that every time a woman pulls back and she goes cold, it's always 100% of the time a test? Of course not. There could be a million reasons why she's pulling back. But there are 2 things that I can say with 100% certainty. One, it's the most likely reason that she's pulling back. And 2, and this one is even more important, if it is some other reason, all the advice that I'm about to give you is always the best course of action, regardless of the reason why she's pulling back. So with that in mind, let's move on to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2, moving in the wrong direction. Whenever we're into a woman and she pulls back, it makes us uncomfortable. Or let's just be honest here, it's painful. And what's our natural response to pain? To make it stop, right? The classic example is touching a hot stove. When our hand touches that hot stove, what's our natural response? Move our hand away from the stove. In a way, our reflex to pain, what we do to avoid pain, to get ourselves out of pain, is to retreat back to what we were doing the moment before the pain began. So our hand was away from the stove, then our hand touched the stove, so we moved it back to where it was before, which is away from the stove. And now that's the intuitive approach, right? But reacting intuitively doesn't really work when we're trying to get out of emotional pain, especially emotional pain related to interpersonal relationships. We can't simply go back to where we were or what we were doing before. Instead, the only way to get out of emotional pain is by doing something different. And that usually means we need to change or evolve or mature, or in the context of intimacy, we need to progress forward by moving to that next stage. But what do most guys do when a woman pulls back? Or let me ask you an even better question. What do most guys say they want to do when a woman pulls back? As a coach, I hear the answer to that question almost every single day. I hear, how do I get her back? I need to get her back. What can I do to get her back? See where I'm going with this? Going back isn't the answer. You can't go back. It would be like saying, to advance my career, I need to go back to the 9th grade. Unless you're Billy Madison, going back to high school isn't going to help your career. So here's the thing. When you're in the attraction phase, and when a woman pulls back, the solution isn't to try to go back to the way things were. The attraction stage is over. It's done. There's no going back. This is why classic mistakes at this point are things like apologizing, sending gifts, and pleading. I mean, think about it for a moment. What's the purpose of an apology? You hope it undoes whatever damage that you may have caused so things return to how they were. What's the purpose of sending a gift? To get her to reconsider, so maybe she goes back to feeling like she did before. And pleading, same thing. You're pleading in hopes of getting your foot in the door so that things can return to the way they were before. You want the pain to stop, which is making you desperate to go back to the way things were before. And look, the list could go on. And everything the average guy tries at this point is pretty much an attempt to go back. And this is why most guys fail. Why most guys are forced to accept the outcome that just happens to them. To get the outcome that you want, you need to think counterintuitively. And that means you need to start asking the right questions, like, what can I do to put a price tag on attraction? How can I turn her attraction to me into desire for me? And now I want you to keep those questions bouncing around in your mind as we go through the remaining 3 mistakes. Mistake number 3. Primal brain decisions. So what did we just establish as the driving force behind that last mistake? What causes guys to want to go back to the way things used to be? Pain, and specifically emotional pain. But the thing is that our brain processes emotional pain the exact same way that it processes physical pain. It's the same neural pathway. So as far as your brain is concerned, emotional pain equals physical pain. So when our pain receptors are triggered, our brain registers a threat, which activates the sympathetic nervous system, preparing us for a fight or flight response. Essentially, we're in survival mode, which means we're only using the primal part of our brain. And the primal brain's only concern is safety. It's not looking at the big picture. It doesn't stop to ponder, might I regret doing this later? No. The primal brain doesn't care about later. There is no later to the primal brain. The primal brain only wants one thing, which is to keep you safe. And it wants to keep you safe right now. So this is who you can blame for sending that long, gushy novella of a text that makes you want to throw up every time you think about it. It wasn't you that sent it. No, it was your primal brain. Our primal brain simply cannot handle solving complex problems. And that's what it is when a woman pulls away, when she pulls back. It's a problem, but it's not a threat. And this is a very important distinction. All this probably makes perfect sense right now, but it's so easy to forget the next time that you're triggered. And believe me, I've seen it happen so many times. Maybe something pops up on social media that makes you think that she's out with another guy, and then boom, your heart starts pounding, you're breathing faster, and then, just like that, you're no longer in the driver's seat. It's now your primal brain who's behind the wheel. And it's your primal brain making cringe-worthy decisions on your behalf. Against your better judgment, you start convincing yourself things that you know are bad moves are what you need to do. In fact, if you ever feel you need to do anything, you should probably just put the phone away, because that's your primal brain talking. You cannot solve problems with the primal brain. All the primal brain is designed to do is get you to safety as fast as possible. Now look, I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm doing it because I know how easy this is to forget when you're in that fight or flight state. You need to remind yourself that you're dealing with a problem. You're not dealing with a threat. Again, say it out loud if you have to. And if you're in public and you're afraid that that might make you look crazy, you're going to look a whole lot crazier if you don't remind yourself of this. Trust me. The primal brain simply does not have the equipment or the bandwidth to handle a complex problem like how to respond to a woman who's slipping away. It would be like trying to send an email from a typewriter. So therefore, it's always a mistake to do anything when you're in that fight or flight mode. Hide your phone from yourself if you have to, because you should never, ever make a decision, let alone an important one, using your primal brain. Simply don't do it. Mistake number 4, moving faster than her. So earlier I explained how the stages of intimacy are a progression. And this is a progression that's always moving forward. It never moves backwards. But we haven't discussed the speed at which you and a woman move through this progression. And now this is very important because whoever's moving faster has less power. I like to imagine it like this. A man and a woman, they're like 2 trains on parallel tracks, right? And they're moving at roughly the same speed. They go on a few dates, they have fun, they vibe over text. And since everything's based on attraction, they're still moving at roughly the same speed. But then the woman slows down a bit. Maybe she's not texting back as fast, or maybe she says she's busy or unavailable for the first time. That adds a little bit of scarcity, making her time seem more valuable since, let's face it, we place value on scarce things. And remember what we know about desire. desires attraction with a price tag. So when she pulls back, she causes his train to speed up. It's almost like her pulling back adds some kind of high-octane fuel to his engine, causing him to surge faster towards that desire phase. This can be an issue since, like I said a minute ago, if he's moving faster than her, then he's the one with less power. It may seem unfair, but a man who has less power becomes less attractive. If she's moving faster than you, she may have less power, but that won't kill your attraction to her. That's because men are typically attracted to indicators of reproductive value, which is a highbrow way of saying a pretty face, a nice rack, and a juicy butt. So if a woman's moving faster, if she has less power, it may cause you to take her for granted a bit, but it doesn't kill your attraction. However, women are hardwired to find men who display indicators of resource potential attractive, which is largely determined by a woman's perception of a man's power and of his status. That's why moving faster than a woman and handing her over your power makes it almost impossible for her to stay attracted to you. Sure, there are women out there who will date a guy with less power or less status than her. They exist, but they're anomalies. They're exceptions that prove the rule. They're not unlike a guy who has a thing or a fetish for fat women and only dates women who are over 300 pounds. But if you had a choice between Grace Elizabeth, who's a Victoria's Secret model from back in the day, or the sorts of women who you see working as Victoria's Secret models today, I have a sneaky suspicion that you're going to go with choice A. Likewise, there's a 99.9% chance that the woman that you want isn't a 0.1% anomaly, which means she only finds men with power and status attractive. So don't fool yourself into thinking you're being a gentleman because you forfeited your power. You're actually being a fucking idiot. And if you don't do something to get that power back, you're going to be a lonely fucking idiot. So pay attention to the next mistake because I'm going to explain what you need to do next. Mistake number 5, going tit for tat. When a woman goes cold, there's this temptation to mirror her behavior and do the same thing back to her. Fight fire with fire, right? That's what they say. But in this case, you're sort of fighting coldness with coldness. And look, in certain situations, pulling back and going silent, going cold, that absolutely is the right move, 100%. But here's why it's often not an effective response in situations like this. When a woman pulls back, when she pulls back her attention, her validation, or her availability, matching her coldness is probably only going to lead to a stalemate where neither party is willing to re-engage. And I understand why this can be confusing, right? It seems like going cold would be the counterintuitive approach. I mean, for most guys, our knee-jerk response would be to start chasing her, to start running after her, try to show her more affection. So wouldn't pulling back and going cold be counterintuitive? And the answer is no. Counterintuitive doesn't simply mean just do the opposite. Think of it like this. The inverse of an emotion isn't what we usually think. I mean, like the opposite of love, it's not hate. It's actually indifference. If you've ever had a crazy ex, they hate you, sure, but it's because you still matter to her. You're still living rent-free in her head, as they say. The ex who's actually moved on, who actually no longer has feelings for you, is the ex who's indifferent. She can be polite, she can be respectful, but it never goes beyond that. In psychology, this is known as emotional valence and activation. Emotional valence refers to the intrinsic goodness or badness of an emotion, while the activation refers to the level of arousal or intensity. To model this, emotions are distributed along a two-dimensional circular space containing arousal, which is high or low, and valence, which is positive or negative dimensions. Indifference would be low arousal and neutral valence, while love and hate are high arousal but on opposite valence sides. This explains why indifference, not hate, is the true opposite of love. When a woman pulls away, the most common question is, so what should I do next? Or more specifically, how should I reach out to her? Which text should I send? But the question you should ask first is, which emotion am I trying to elicit? Before you can even think about choosing your words, about choosing what to write, what to text her, you first have to consider the right emotion to target. And you want to target the emotion that offsets whatever negative feelings that she may have at this moment. And look, even if you did everything right up until this point, she's probably still feeling some negative emotion. And this is completely normal and something that you should expect and even anticipate. I mean, let's think about it for a moment. On the one hand, she's probably excited and intrigued by the possibility of spending more time with you. But on the other hand, she's probably also a bit apprehensive, since most, if not all women, experience some anxiety and some hesitation before moving forward with a new partner. I mean, put yourself in her shoes, right? She's probably sitting there weighing the pros and cons of getting more serious with you. And this is especially true if she has an avoidant attachment style. If she sees herself as being very reliant or very independent, there's a good chance that this progression point will stir up some negative emotions in her. Also, consider things from an evolutionary psychology perspective. Every time there's a progression of intimacy, so too comes an increased chance that she's going to wind up pregnant. And look, she may like you, but let's be honest, she doesn't know you well enough to be sure that you're going to stick around and you're going to provide for her and her potential offspring if, she were to get pregnant. So when you look at things from that angle, what's the underlying negative emotion? What emotion would encompass that, just that apprehension and the anxiety that I just described? Do you give up? It would be fear, right? And now, how do you offset fear? Well, first, let me tell you what you shouldn't do, which is try to tell her that you respect her independence or that you're a trustworthy guy. One thing I've learned over the years, and I learned this the hard way, is that you cannot tell a woman anything. All you can do is show her through your behavior, through your actions. You wouldn't say to a woman, hey, so just so you know, I'm not a serial killer or anything. Likewise, you shouldn't ever send a long, logical text trying to explain yourself or tell her why she should trust you or why she should see you again. So, if you were thinking about writing a text like that, don't. And, you can thank me later for that. Instead, go back to our original question. What emotion are you trying to elicit? Well, since we established that she's probably experiencing fear, the question then becomes, what emotion offsets fear? Now, it's tempting to assume that the opposite of fear is courage, but it's actually not. According to emotional valence, curiosity is fear's true opposite. Fear makes us avoid the unknown, whereas curiosity drives us to explore and to actually embrace the unknown. So what text can you send to a woman that is going to get her curious? Well, that's entirely up to you. And at this point, I do encourage you to think creatively and see what you come up with. In fact, if you come up with something good or you find something that works, please absolutely leave it in the comments. I'm sure there's plenty of guys that who are watching who are going to find it very useful. But look, I'm not just going to leave you hanging high and dry, because I have been in your position before, and I know that sometimes it can be hard to think straight, and let alone think creatively when a woman starts to pull away. Like I said, I've been there. So I'm going to help you out here. I'm going to give you the exact text that I used in this situation. In fact, I used it with a woman who I was in a very bad place with, and I was able to bounce back, or more importantly, I was able to bounce forward. I was able to bounce to that next stage of intimacy. And I'm happy to say we ended up together, and we're still together to this day. In fact, she's sitting here right now helping me record this video. So I guess you could say it kind of worked.
I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious.
So stick with me to the end, and I'm going to give you the exact text, the exact 14 words that I sent, which you can also use to elicit curiosity and to offset fear. All right, so I got my phone here, and I'm going to show you exactly what text that I found works the best in this situation, and it's a text that I've given dozens of clients who went on to successfully reattract and reignite things with a woman who was slipping away. All right, so first I'm just going to show you the text, and then I'm going to explain a little bit about it. So here it is. Hey, so quick favor-ish to ask, hit me up when you have a sec. So what this text will do is it's going to get a woman curious, but it's important that you know what to do after she's curious. And if you've watched this entire video, you should already know the answer to that. You need to turn her attraction, and you need to turn it into desire. Your next step needs to be putting a price tag on attraction. Now, there is a very specific way to do that, a way that I've taught to hundreds of guys just like you who followed the steps and got the outcome that they wanted. But look, there's only so much I can teach in a YouTube video. If you want to learn exactly what to do next, as well as get the entire course that teaches you everything else that you need to know to get that successful outcome, then click the link on the screen. Because look, I'm going to be honest with you here. When you send her this text, it's going to pick her curiosity, yes. But if you don't know what to do next, there's a good chance that things are going to go sideways again. But if you click the link, which I'm also going to put in the description, you can watch 2 additional videos that I made that are just like this one, but they're actually a little bit longer and even more comprehensive. That's going to walk you through step by step exactly how to parlay this innocent text asking for a favor into a full-blown date and more. Much more. So go ahead and check out that link. And on that note, I'm going to wrap things up. But as always, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe because it really helps support the channel. And it also keeps me motivated to continue cranking out videos like this. And also, if you got any value from this video, please let me know in the comments. Don't be shy. Comments, they also really help grow the channel. Plus, it gives me an opportunity to interact with you. And we kind of get to talk directly a little bit. So go ahead, chime in. And once again, thanks for watching. And I'll see you next week.